thank all those people who voted, and I certainly want to congratulate and welcome you, re-welcome you to the board.
Thank you very much, Bert. And the next is the introduction of the continuing directors by Bill Walsh.
All right. I'm going to start with Bert Baum. Bert Baum currently holds the office of Secretary of the Board. His term expires a year from now. Jules Zalon, who has been with the board for a year now, and his term expires next year at this time. And then our illustrious president, Rosemarie DiLorenzo, whose term expires in 2019. Bert Moldow, a stalwart on the board for the last 4 years, and his term expires in 2019. Steve Parsons, our treasurer, and we're glad you're here, Steve. You've led us through some really important discussions on the finances in this HOA, so appreciate it. And Susan Kane, who's going to, her term is going to expire in 2019. Thank you, Susan.
Okay. And now we would like the acknowledgement of the Inspector of Elections by Bert Baum.
Yeah, we have the Inspector of Elections was Dan Papich of Martin and Chapman, who's been doing this for a long time, and we want to thank them. And we want to thank all the volunteers who helped count the votes. Even though this election was a pretty cut and dried affair, we still had to go through the whole process, which took a couple of hours and required a number of volunteers to help with the processing of the ballots.
Okay, and we also want to thank the Garden Villa Association because they are a group who keep a lot of things going in 1/3 of third. We always say 1/3 of third. I wish some of them would run for the board, but I always have to get the little dig in. But thank you very much because they really do help us get things moving. So now we're going to have reports by committees, and I'm going to ask William Walsh, or Bill, to call on the different committees and keep this going. Thank you.
I didn't get the memo on that one.
I just changed my mind.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Well, I can read. The first report is going to be from the Architectural Standards and Control Committee, chaired by Bert Moldow. Thank you, Bert.
And we decided to limit this as to how many minutes?
5 minutes apiece, is that it?
Okay. Well, we're reminding you.
I mean, all this time, we have nothing else going on. Okay.
Put
The
the
Architecture
time
Standards
on.
and Control Committee, I'd first like to recognize the members of that committee, and that's John Frankel, Bill Walsh, Steve Parsons, Annette Soul, Rosemarie, and I had 2 advisors who've done tremendous work in this area. Actually, one had to leave, Roger Morris, for a job, but the other was Mike Butler, and he has been just outstanding in his support for the committee. What has the committee, you know, the basic function of the committee, as you should know, is dealing with requests coming in from residents or owners for alterations and variations in their units. And of course, you know that we do have standards in the community. We don't want to wind up with a hodgepodge of trailer homes and other things built within the area. So a lot of emphasis is placed on conforming with standards that have been defined over the years. But still, there are opportunities for people to deviate from those standards and produce plans for variations in those buildings. And this committee goes out after meeting with the people, examining the plans, making sure that they are in conformance, and when not, what we do is actually take bus trips to go out and look at the site, look at the building, look at the situation, take into account neighbor considerations, what are the neighbor comments, and also taking into account the rules of the state the Davis-Sterling Act, which provides constraints, as do our CCNRs. So committee this year has done a lot of work reworking the processes by which we do this work to try to simplify them and make them more standard.
Thank you, Bert. I guess Rosemary thought you were going to talk longer. She stepped out. She was going to talk about governance. We'll come back to that. Communications Committee, Bert Baum.
The Communications Committee main function is to communicate, make sure that the board's message is getting out to the public, and also that there's a mechanism for us to listen to what you want to say. And we've approached this in several ways. One of our main efforts has been through Breeze. Breeze is our newsletter. I hope you're all getting it. I think most people in the community are. And you can get it both electronically, or you can get hard copies that are distributed in the various clubhouses and in this building. This is a publication that's done by all the boards, just by the boards. And our effort is to tell you what we're doing and what goes on at the board meetings so that there's less of a question as to where these new rules and regulations come from. And we also arrange to greet our new residents, which is really important. And we do that through mailings now, telephones, and we have new resident orientation. We also ask any of the clubs who want a board member to come speak to them and let us know. We can arrange that, and our board members have done that too. And we're always open for new ideas from the community. You can certainly attend our events. So aside from our activity on the Breeze, we've also been involved in putting together new brochures and handouts to alert the residents about new policies and processes. And the two that we've been working on now and that's out there that you can see is the move in and move out. When you move into this community and move out, you have to follow certain procedures. And also, we put together a brochure for caretakers. Since we have new regulations about caretakers, we want people to know what is involved in a simplified manner. And I want to thank the people who have supported me on this committee and done a really good job. I want to mention Susan Kane, who's really helped us and pitched in. Bert Moldow is a member, and Bunny Carpenter. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bert. I guess I'm next on the list. I'm going to talk about the Energy and Technology Committee. It's currently the only Energy and Technology Committee of the three boards. United and GRF do not have one at this time. They have had in the past. This committee is made up of board members Moldow, Bert Moldow, John Frankel, Bert Baum, and Rosemary does come and join us. I also want to thank Leon St. Hilaire for your participation for the last couple of years as an advisor from the community. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Steve Leonard, who is currently a United board member who has done a tremendous amount of been a tremendous amount of help in moving this committee forward with initiatives like solar and LED lighting. The committee really is committed to looking for ways to conserve energy as well as try to, in the case of solar, actually generate electricity so it can be cost savings to the community. And that was the big project this year. We installed solar on 12 Garden Villa building rooftops, an 875 kilowatt hour installation that is estimated to cut our energy costs by about $240,000 a year. Hopefully that will pay itself back in about 10 years, and from there on for 25 years, it's going to be free energy to this community. And so it was a really significant event. It took a lot of work on a lot of people's part, and I really want to thank, again, Bert Moldow and Steve Leonard particularly on that. And the other initiative that we took is that we put LED lighting in all the breezeway in the laundry rooms, and the walkways of the 81 three-story buildings in this community. It's not only provided a better safety for people walking around at night because the light's better, but it also has saved us somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25% in energy costs for lighting those buildings. We're really looking forward to this next year because we realize that in doing the solar project that we have some real issues in the community with our electrical infrastructure. And we're seeking help from some consulting firms. We're going out to bid to see if we can get them to come in and give us some really good advice on how we can move forward to improve our electrical infrastructure. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. The next person, Rosemarie, would you like to talk about governance? Okay.
Governance, or you want me to go back there?
Yes, please.
Well, as far as governance goes, we really have tried. United did a really good job within their community with changing some of their documents. And our documents, our governing documents are our bylaws, our CC&Rs, and we've been going through them. And the thing is there's some things that just aren't even applicable anymore because they're 40-something years old. So we were trying to do it as committee, and it would be like, well, I want to do it this way, and I'm going to, type of thing. And so our legal firm works on that type of thing. So we have to get organized because there's certain things in here. For example, we have our rentals keep going up because people buy in here as investment properties. And we have to be really careful with that. And whatever we do, we have to stay within our governing documents. So we want to make sure that we're very, very careful. So there are a number of things we have to address. And then the next things on the list would be executive hearings. For those of you who have never been and had any violation ever, good. But we do have some residents who either have clutter or dogs barking or dogs biting or dogs off the leash, and I love dogs, so it has nothing to do with that. But we have a number of issues, and what happens is that, we have a compliance department, and they try to work with you and try to get you within compliance and to make sure that your conduct is not impacting the conduct or the welfare of the other residents, because that's what it's all about. We're supposed to be fair and aware of our conduct. So we have these meetings once a month, and it's quite interesting. Sometimes it's a long day, and I hope that eventually we'll have fewer people attending because there'll be fewer violations. But we're working very hard with security, and some people, unfortunately, come back again and again because they think that it's okay to break all the rules, whether it's peeling the stickers off and moving them from car to car, you name it. So we're working very hard with security and with our compliance department to try to make this a better and safer place for all of our residents. Okay.
Thank you, Rosemarie. Steve Parsons for Finance Committee.
Morning. The Finance Committee meeting is a meeting of the whole. We do have other advisors. I'd like to introduce them at this time. One of them is present with us, Wei Ming Tao. If you could stand, please. She was our past treasurer and just a real asset to us. John Hess is another one. He was unavailable for today, and Colin Johnston. Also, all these folks come from real deep financial backgrounds, banking, investing, and all like that. So we're very lucky to have them. Well, this year we started off looking at what our needs would be for next year. And so we got to thinking about it. We thought, well, you know, we probably need to come in with a little bit more of an assessment than what we had before. But after we started looking at the programs, talking to staff, and even Brad, how things can be spaced out logically, that reduces the amount of expenditures you have per year, which is really a good deal. And it saves a lot of confusion also. So we have been very conservative in our approach, and you might notice that our portion of the assessment was only 1.4% increase. And we think that that's a very healthy thing to have. And we do appreciate input from people around us, all of you in the community. We want to dispel this idea of wild spending. Every month, at least twice a month, I go in and review financials. And so do some of the other board members, because they're on different committees and they look at what the expenditures are in there for their specific committees and task forces. So be assured that we are watching over the finances. We even have staff now, department heads under Brad, that are coming forward and saying, guys, we need to look at this because some things we may have a disconnect on. And some of those disconnects have saved us some money that we can channel elsewhere into higher priority items. So yes, you know, we are taking out money for assessments. However, we do have a lot of projects we've got to deal with in a hurry. And I'm sure Bert and Bill will be talking, and James, more about this at a later point. Another thing that we've been heavily involved with this year are the uncollectible accounts. Probably unbeknownst to you, we have a lot of people that have not been paying their assessments, fines, and things like that. We also this year have taken on a new law firm, of which they have a whole department that deals with collections. And so instead of being after the fact dealing with things, we're becoming proactive. And some of these lawyers can do things that we never even knew was possible before. So we're in a downward cycle now, thank goodness, on uncollectibles. So we're getting ahead of the curve and working it smartly. Still on this idea of conservative spending, at a later point, Bunny is going to be talking about our contract policies and procedures task force. And she has some real interesting things to say, so I'll defer to her at a later point. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next is Landscape. James Tung is Chair of the Landscape Committee. Thank you, James.
Well, first thing I want to apologize partially because my wife is sick in the hospital, so I didn't spend enough time to handle all the landscape problems. However, for the past 3 years, we did initiate a couple good things. One is because of a drought and governor's policy, we started turf reduction program. However, this program can only be done in the winter or cool weather. So those ones, maybe some of you already started in April, May, and some other ones you made a request and will be resumed in this month, or if not started yet already. The other program we initiated is the wireless soil sensor project. We call it a pilot project because that, instead of we only have one weather station for the entire community, we'll try to experiment, put a water sensor in the soil so that in each local variable areas, we will have a more adequate amount of water to irrigate our land. And that's supposed to be able to save water. So far, we have some savings, but it's still in the experimental stage. The third thing that I really feel bad is because of I guess the earlier part of this year, we have storms, a lot of cleaning. Also, we lost a lot of employees, so we're short of people. Plus, the fire department require us to do the cleaning up on the outer edge of our community, which when we do it, you cannot see it because those are, they call the brush fire area. So the staff spend a lot of time to do that. Therefore, our maintenance really, really fall behind. And that's where, every week's the globes, we probably see 2-3 complaints about landscape. However, now, Brad told me that we are changing to a new staff, Bruce, who has a lot of experience in landscape area. Plus, we were able to hire more staff, so the things will be improved and coming up. Now, because I'm away so much, so I'm asking Susan, probably can give us more detailed report on the landscape. Bruce, Susan?
Thank you, James. I'd like to just acknowledge, too, that Bunny Carpenter is the vice chair of the committee.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we have Bonnie and John Franco and Susie as a part of a landscape committee. You did great job. Thank you. Go ahead.
To continue, we've also recently got a volunteer to step forward, an advisor named Violet Lawrence, who has an amazing background in landscape and design. And in fact, she's been very involved with the Breezeway project that we're doing in the Garden Villa. And Bunny and I have been hard at work at that. In fact, we have another meeting tomorrow with the group, and hopefully we can come up with some really beautiful ideas and solutions for the Breezeway. A couple of the other things that we've been working on, in fact, one was communication from landscaping to the residents. And James started this off by, at board meetings, he would show slides of what's going on in the community. And we got finally Kurt to get behind this idea and make presentations to educate and inform the community in the form of PowerPoint presentations. And so I think it's, as a member of the communications committee with Bert, it's really important that landscape focus on communication in a proactive mode, and I think that it's definitely a priority of Bruce Hartley, as well as customer service, which is something that we really, really are changing and improving as we speak. And remember, I just like to remind our residents to call resident services first for anything. They're coordinating with all the committees, and that will be helpful. The last thing I'd like to mention is the modernization program that we have for next year. There's funds allocated so we can focus on areas where there are still a lot of old shrubbery that are high maintenance and not thriving. And so we will be doing replacement and turf reduction and all kinds of things. I expect that this will take place in the areas of Gate 5 and 6. Gate 6 in particular have really poor soil conditions. So we're moving forward. As James announced, Bruce Hartley has taken helm. I had the opportunity to meet with him quickly, and I was so impressed with his background as well as his desire to communicate with the community and perform great outreach. So thank you very much.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure, James.
Yeah, well, I don't want to give you a false hope. I said the landscape will do better. Actually, there are facts that will point to that direction. One, used to landscape handle the golf course. That takes a lot of staff time. Now that has been changed to a recreation department. Also cleaning carport. Again, moving away from landscape. So potential landscape staff will have more time to work on your maintenance. And also, the landscape was going to apply some new technology, so the supervisor in supervisor and the foreman in the field, they have a better communication, they can relate it to your residents' requests. All those are pointing to the better, more efficient service. Also, Bruce promised that we'll come up with some more accountability measures. So if road staff kind of fall behind, dragging their feet, we'll evaluate them. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, James. And Rosemary, you have a comment?
And the thing is we took more than 5 minutes on landscape.
Sorry.
So we all better do a really good job. And I have been hounding Brad for 18 months about making it better. So if you see an area that needs help, remember, contact Resident Services, but also your board, VMS, because we know that has to be improved, because we all go around, we drive around, and that's it. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Thank all of you. Okay. Maintenance and construction, Bert Muldown.
Probably want to alert you people of the fact that most of your money goes to maintenance and construction. Maintenance in particular. This community is 52 years old, and you can certainly understand why maintenance is taking a big chunk of money. And if we want to continue this for another 50 years, we've got to deal with the problems that we're facing. We are continuing the programs like replacing the roofs with white roofs to extend the life of roofing, although it costs a little more by extending the life of roofing by another 10 years. It's a big savings to the community. We are facing a major dry rot problem in this community. We are facing copper pipe leakage. We're facing waistline leakage. These are all programs that are in existence today and are addressing these problems. We're trying to get ahead of the curve. And what I mean by that is we're trying to basically cut down on the cost of repair. Once, a leak occurs, you're facing with the problem of having to have people come in and repair whatever damage has been done. We hope that all the members of this community have homeowners insurance to cover that. We cover the outside, we cover the replacement and repair of the piping, and we cover the replacement of the walls that may have had to be replaced, the dry down. But the interior, anything damaged, the floor, the furniture, that would be your responsibility, and that would be covered by your insurance. So heed the warning. But as I say, what we're trying to do is get ahead of the curve, get more of this work done, the repair, rather than spending money on repair. Let's spend money on fixing the problem to begin with, and that's our objective. There are several new programs that we have instituted. When I came into this community, I used to comment about the street lighting and how dark this place is. I used to laugh when I used to see people walking around with miners' lights caps. And I want you to know that within the past few weeks, we signed a contract to purchase all of the street lights in our community from the power company. This will give us an opportunity now to replace those street lights with much better lighting, LEDs. We are in the process right now of selecting basically a turnkey vendor who will come in and do an inventory of these lights, make sure that what SCE says they're selling us indeed does exist. And if there's no match, we intend to go back and ask them for the money that we've been paying them for street lights that don't exist. They will go beyond that. What they will do is they will do a light intensity check to make sure what is the diversity of lighting on the street. Right now, we've got street lights on one side where there's no sidewalks and sidewalks on the other side of a road, and these lights are just not doing anything to light up those sidewalks. This is a safety issue. So they will do that evaluation for us. They will run pilot programs on installing new types of lights and new types of fixtures so that we can basically make a decision as to which way we want to go. They will then actually do an installation of LED lighting. They will come in and recommend whether or not we should put arms on our poles to get the light more projected out over the street. And where that's possible, we will do that. They will actually make recommendations to our landscape people where trees are covering these lights. I mean, we've got street lights that actually right now are buried in tree foliage, and we've got to do something about that. So they will do that. They will do the entire installation, and then they will maintain these lights for a period of 5 years. So this is the type of deal that we're looking for. Okay, we're looking for professionals to come in and do this work. We just don't have the talent within the community. So that's one major area. We are establishing a concrete program. You know, our sidewalks, driveways are beginning to crack up. They're settled because of the drought. We got to do something about that, and we're initiating a concrete program to deal with that problem. Walkway lighting is an issue. United has addressed walkway lighting, but it's been our opinion that the existing fixtures, in many cases, are inadequate. I've done a temporary walk around part of the community, and I find that there are walkway lights that are buried in foliage. You're just totally ineffective. They're not high enough. They're not projecting light far enough. And the distance between some of these lights is truly excessive. So we are, again, looking toward hiring professionals to come in, do an inventory to tell us where all these fixtures are and what the problems are, fixture by fixture, and then to make recommendations, again, how we can improve walkway lighting in this community for our people. Again, a safety issue. Last, as far as a new program goes, is we're going to enhance the signage so that we have better numbering on our buildings, and we're starting with the Garden Villa buildings. Okay, we've done an evaluation of where we could put signs. We have selected a sign with 8-inch numbering, not the little signs that we have on the buildings today. And what we've done is we've done an inventory of where is the best possible place to place the sign for visibility from the street. I mean, we've got little signs on buildings that are set back within cul-de-sacs, and people don't even know the address of these buildings. The signs are too small. At nighttime, give up totally. You cannot read those signs. Some of these signs are set high on poles, and it's hopeless.
Bert,
I think I'm getting the message. Anyway, there's a lot of work going on. And I'd like to recognize, this is a committee of the whole, okay? And there are subcommittees I'd like to introduce, if I may.
Well,
For instance, we have,
Yes, you may, Bert. Go ahead.
okay, we have Dry Rot Committee that is addressing the issue of dry rot throughout the community. And, John?
I'll talk about those when my turn comes, and it'll be coming up when I talk about that. I'll talk about
Don't
that.
tread on his territory.
No, I think I'd like you to do that now.
There are two subcommittees that are the Parking Task Force and the Dry Rot Task Force. The Dry Rot Task Force has Bunny Carpenter, Bert Moldow, Bert Baum, and Steve Parsons. And the Parking Task Force has Bert Moldow, Bunny Carpenter, Bill Walsh, and Annette Soul. And we are moving forward in both of these areas on the basis of some consultants that we've hired. The Dry Rot Task Force has hired a very, very competent consultant who is going to analyze 20 typical buildings and look for dry rot there, and then we'll project the results of that analysis over the entire 3rd Laguna Woods Village area with the purpose of trying to get our arms around this dry rot issue. We're spending millions of dollars every year on the prior to paint, but we don't really have a handle on just how bad the dry rot is, and this consultant will help us. And in the same manner, we have used a consultant to analyze the parking situation, and he has completed his analysis, and we've begun to remove red curb in 2 of the 4 worst areas. And so with the use of consultants, we have had some significant success.
Okay, and I also, if we can, Annette, do the golf cart subcommittee.
I just had a question. John, are we almost finished with the red curb removal? The red line removal?
We have completed in the 2 worst areas, and now we're going to be holding a meeting and discuss where we go from here.
So there should be at least 500 spaces back to the community?
That's correct.
At least 500? Right, okay, good. Well,
John,
that's a
are they
start.
actually painting parking lines on there where people can tell where they put their car? Is somebody going in there and actually painting parking spaces for them?
We aren't creating or widening spaces. That will be the next step, as to
Oh,
where we
okay.
go from here. Right now, the first step is just red curb reset, meaning
All right, thank you.
sandblasting.
And I'll make one comment. When Bert said that we purchased these streetlights, it's for Third Mutual streetlights. It's not for the entire community.
I thought we are.
Okay, you considered us the community.
community.
Excuse me, it's a matter of perspective. All right, thank you.
Okay, any others? Annette, I'd like you to deal with the golf carts.
Okay, this is the Garden Villa Golf Cart Parking Task Force. It's newly formed, and this is out of the building code compliance. Security is now giving tickets for golf cart chargers if they are not at least 6 inches off the ground, and tickets for unattended extension cords. We will be expanding the task force mission to include carports as well. And what we first did was we formed this committee with most of the members being Garden Villa residents. And we chose as our pilot the one Garden Villa building that had parking for 14 golf carts. We had 2 meetings, and we haven't developed a permanent solution yet, but we did, at that task force, we basically met, and by the Saturday after the Friday meeting, I got an email that says we're in compliance. And this creative group went down and bought cinder blocks, raised the chargers 6 inches, and then basically used some chains and locks to make sure they didn't get stolen, and did away with the way they parked, did away with the extension cord. So I'm really proud of that. But what we're going to do now is we're going to look for permanent solutions to be developed and put those into the 2019 budget requests in order to solve that. The other thing we're going to do is the next Garden Villa Golf Cart Parking Task Force meeting is Thursday, October the 26th, from 9:30 to 11:30 in the Community Center Sycamore Room. And I'd like to take this time to acknowledge and thank Marty Lapata, who has been my right arm in terms of, since I am not a Garden Villa resident, making me aware of all the issues and the concerns, and spending a considerable amount of time driving me throughout the Garden Villas, the garages, so I understand the problem better. Thank you.
I also would like to thank Marty in the fact that he is an advisor to the M&C committee. Thank you, Marty.
Okay, thank you. Rosemary, you had something to say?
No, I was just wondering if Bert was finished yet.
Well, he does have a big subject
I
area
know.
to deal with. James Tung on the Water Conservation Committee, big issue.
Yeah, but I'll try to promise using less than 5 minutes. You can count it. All right, for the water conservation, I want to say this effort is really it's a teamwork of all the residents, a landscape division, and the plumbing staff. We're all working together according to our previous, our finance chair, we were able to save more than $600,000 on the water bill. Now, how we do it? We monitor all the water bill each month, and then we focus on those meters with tier 3, tier 4 water bills, and then choosing the highest bill to work on for the top 20s. And then if we find there's a leak, and that's where I want to thank a lot of us residents, you were willing to replace your old leaking toilet. Surprised, actually a lot of water were wasted by the old dripping of an old toilet. But a lot of people were willing to change it to a new water-saving toilet. And if there's leaking, we'll give it to the plumbing division to fix the underground leak, under or in-wall leaking. Now, there are times some residents tend to overuse the water. We'll send out a letter, ask them to conserve more water. That's why, again, people start and conserve water. So that's why it's a whole teamwork. Now, also, I want to thank the El Toro Water District because we're working with them. Fortunately, we have a gate 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. recycled water for our irrigation. That, the advantage of that is for recycled water, it's just one rate of water charge rate, no higher tier. Now, also, I want to inform everyone, the El Toro Water is gonna install the recycled water pipes this year. In fact, the contract's been granted, and they're gonna start digging the trench in the Gate 9 area this year, in November. So hopefully, within a year, we'll be able to save more water bill because of, more recycled water, no higher bills. And then, of course, we're going to do the same this year and in the future. Thank you. Less than 5 minutes?
Yep, you did it.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you,
I just want
James.
to comment, for those people that live in Gate 9 and 10, all those stripes that have been painted on the street, that's exactly where your pipes are going to go.
Right. And the other thing, Jules, have you been out checking water meters at 1 a.m. still, or have you?
Periodically.
Oh, okay. He's our real investigator out there along with James. Thanks. I'm going to move into the task forces that are offshoots of these different committees for specialized focus on particular specific issues in the community. And as you heard from Annette about the GV golf course parking and John from the dry rot, I'm going to start out with John, the Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings. Can you talk to us about that?
The Laguna Woods traffic hearings, here's violations on a once-a-month basis. There's a member from each of the mutuals, and Jules and I are on the committee, and Jules will give us a quick synopsis of where we stand.
Where we stand is there were 2,271 citations issued throughout the year, of which a batch of 400 and some odd were non-fine citations. That meant there were 1,848 fine-related citations, the super vast majority of which were simply paid without contest at the hearing. There were 92 so-called convictions that were listed as fines paid, which leaves unreported the number of fines that were unpaid. There were 257 voided or suspended citations, a term I am totally unable to explain. And there were 27 people that attended traffic school throughout the year, an average of about 2.5 people per month. The only thing I can say about my limited time on the traffic panel is the traffic panel seems to have been making its decisions in an improper manner with 4 people participating in the decisions. A little research by Francis Rangel turned up a regulation from 2015 that requires that the chair not participate in the decision. I think anyone who has ever been in one of our traffic hearings knows that the chair very well participates with enthusiasm at the hearings. This will almost certainly change starting this coming month. And that is the balance of my report.
Thank you, Jules. John, did you have anything else? No. All right, all right. The next task force is the Third Residency and Compliance. Bert Baum.
Thank you. I got my committee and task force mixed up. I put Bert on the communication committee. I confused him. He looks so much like you, Bill. It's Bill Walsh who's on the committee. And I also want to recognize that Carol St. Hilaire is an advisor. Her husband's sitting out there to make sure that I mention that. Okay, so we're all squared, right? I'll talk about the Compliance and Residency Task Force. Has a very fancy name. And why did we start this? And the reason is simple. As board members, we've been overwhelmed with complaints about various nuisances in the community. And we started this task force as a way to look at these abuses, to see how they've been handled and how we can improve the handling and prevent these types of abuses, and some of them are very serious. And we had, this was not come before the committee because this had to be done in closed session. We had 3 major cases this year of residents who were abusing their fellow residents in various ways: noise, smoking, marijuana, late parties, terrorizing the people around them. We had people who were living here who had children. And in fact, it was a couple, and one of them gave birth to another child. So they started with one, and they wound up with 2. And the point is, it takes so long to try to correct these violations that they had enough time to procreate during that period. And we had another third case of someone who was very seriously disturbed, had some very deep psychological issues, and should not have been in this community to begin with. And we were able, with the help of our attorney who's sitting on the end there, Sandra Gottlieb, to finally move these people out of the community. And without any lawsuit. So we want to thank her, and we want to thank the people from compliance and security. And as part of our effort, we have tried to beef up these 2 areas, and we're very pleased with what's happened now. And if you notice, I think Brad talked about compliance, nuisance complaints. I think they've skyrocketed, and it's not because there's so many more nuisances, it's because now we have mechanisms for it to be reported, and our residents know that, and they're being acted upon. And so I want to, and as part of this effort too, we developed a new caretaker policy and a new leasing policy. And these are meant to try and prevent the abuses that we know were going on. It's created somewhat of a stir because it represents a change. But our objective is not to punish the residents that are here legally. It's to ferret out those people who should not be here and who are costing us, not only in the quality of our life, but in our pocketbook, because they are not paying assessments very often. We have to resort to legal action, and that all comes out of your assessments. So I want to thank the people who are on this committee: Bert Moldow, the real Bert Moldow, Bunny, our esteemed president. I want to mention 2 of our advisors, Marty Lapata, who is sitting out in our audience, and Stuart Hack. Thank you all for your efforts.
Thank you, Bert. And the next task force we're going to talk about, and ask Steve Parsons to talk about the Third Mutual Earthquake Task Force.
Okay, the charter we were given, as defined, was to study what the problem and the effect might be upon the community if we had a major earthquake. So we put together a team of people, and we actually went to Caltech, and we had people from all boards that were there. We also had people from the community at large. People were selected based on their expertise and governance positions. So I'd just like to introduce the names of the people who were on our committee, and I'll talk a little bit more about our trip. John Frankel, and I'd like to give you a little bit of the background of these folks. He comes from Structures and Civil Engineering. James Tung, a geologist, right here.
Geophysicist.
Chief Tim Moy. Dan Yost, who's our VMS risk manager. Roger Morris, who's still an architect. Colin Johnson, a financial rep. Steve Leonard, who knows a lot of things that are happening and the structures and things like that, and logistics around the area. Dave Southworth, who was our disaster preparedness rep, who knows a lot about computers, communications, and also the Caltech Geotech department. So we went up there, they gave us a presentation. We spent about a half a day with them. We came back from that, and after about a month and a half of deliberation, we said, we should bring in our financial advisors as well. So we brought in our financial advisors. Dan Yost walked through what the proposal was on insurance in case we wanted to purchase it. And everybody agreed that at this time, it was very cost-effective to do that. Our policy was $168,000, and we're still putting money into our disaster reserve. So we could bring to bear right at this point over $20 million if a major disaster occurred. That helps us, especially when our financial people on the outside are looking at us. And they know that we're being proactive, trying to take care of our community and protect our community. Through this task force, we met with insurance brokers and underwriters. Daniel set that up, and we questioned them about several things and found out things we didn't know before, but the end was that we did purchase this. So that was effective on or about the 23rd of August, and it's a $10 million policy. So we feel very good about that, and we're moving ahead with that. So that's my report on disaster.
Thank you, Steve. That's really important stuff. The last task force that I would like to bring, have comment on was from Bunny Carpenter on contract procedures. He's very integral in bringing that up to a really nice workable process.
Isn't that true that we won't sign a contract unless Bunny reads it?
Of course.
That's for sure. It's always, let Bunny read it before we even read it. So
Yes.
she's a very important part of
Yes.
us and tries to keep us in line.
Last but not least, but this policy impacts all committees and GRF and United. So and also I just want you to know that the purchasing policy was created by the purchasing task force also with participation of staff. And the objective of it was for greater oversight and expenditures, contracts, and that protect the liability of our community and accountability. So with the oversight, staff provides a bid analysis and reports for contracts for $25,000 for approval by the board and assigned by 2 officers. So before 2014, staff signed all the contracts and the board had minimal oversight. So with our contracts, the standard terms and conditions were developed and approved by legal counsel. Previously, the terms and conditions had not been reviewed by legal counsel, and all the terms needed to be updated and including the insurance requirements. So now, exhibits were established and are now included in the RFP and the contracts. One of the biggest things was accountability. To procure a requirement with relevant documentation such as requests for proposals. To enable staff and the board to be more responsible for decisions and have an obligation to report and or answer to the boards in boards of the outcomes, and to provide greater transparency to the community. So this policy is now used by GRF, United and Third. And in the near future, we hope to tweak it to provide better efficiencies. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bunny, and thank you and the task force for all your hard work on that. That is really critical in our proceedings. Thank you.
Bill,
John,
I
can I
also
make-
want to say, I think I may have left your name out. She's also a member of the residency task force.
Okay.
Thank you.
We got to get our acknowledgements in here.
Right.
James, you have one?
Yes, I want to, I forgot, how can I forget? In the Water Conservation Committee, we have John Franco and Jules Zelen as a committee member. The reason I really appreciate their work, you know this Jules Zelen, sometimes she's staring at a water meter for more than a half an hour. You know that, because it's sometimes become very dedicated to determine if the dial move, stop, that means there's no leak. But if the dial very steadily moving all the time, that means there was leaking, because people cannot use your water 24 hours. And that's why, in order to find out exactly which way it goes, he's staring the half an hour. And then people says, "Are you sick?" Thank you. So I appreciate it very much.
And you didn't know that there were board members out and about in the community after midnight, so now you know. We're trying to look after you. Okay. At this point, I would like to make mention of a couple of the clubs also that have really been proactive in the community and in an association, starting with the Gardenville Association. They're really an important part for giving us feedback on the issues that they're experiencing, and it really helps us address issues that are going on in the community. Also, the Algarobo Club and the Gate 11 Club. A couple of us went to the Gate 11 Club meeting last Monday, and I did not know they had become a club. But the people in Gate 11 formed a club, and they were very thankful, for one thing, that this board had gone to the city to get okay to go ahead and put shepherd hooks on the top of the walls, and because they felt very vulnerable on the backside of their section of the community back there in Gate 11. And they've got it, I don't know how many feet it was. Brad, do you know how many? It was probably a couple hundred, 300 or 400 feet of shepherd hooks, which has made it a much more secure area, because that's a wilderness area back there and people have been intruding. Bert, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, this is a program that I didn't mention that we've established. So over the next 10 years, we will be putting shepherd hooks all around, replacing the barbed wire. There are approximately 70,000 feet that we have to install, so we're taking it over 10 years, 7,000 each year. And most of that will start next year.
Thank you. Steve, did you want to say anything about the Algarobo Club? Just the kinds of things that you do and what you're about?
Oh, okay. We meet 4 times a year. Next meeting is October 28th at Clubhouse 6, starting at 9:30. It's a Saturday. We go until noon. But the club basically is for information passing and just getting together, recognizing new people in the area. Our actual title is Algarobo Neighbors and Friends, which can include anybody in the village. But we have outside speakers that come and talk to us. A lot of times they're staff members that have new programs that they want to talk about. So it's just a way of getting together, recognizing new people, and passing information between us. We also have a contact in the city for their new programs. They give us flyers, so you can pick those up on the table as well. Thank you.
All right, Steve, I'm going to turn this back over to our president, and she can, item 11, and go from there. Thank you.
Well, before I get to item 11, I do want to, because we're doing a lot of reports on things, we want to thank our 3 representatives from Third who are on VMS. One of them is sitting in the audience, Dennis O'Connor. Great job, Dennis. We hear great things about you. And we also have Donna Dwalaby and Marcy Scheinwald. Dennis is interested in is getting his position back next year, so we're going to have to work with him on that. But he's done a great job. We get reports on him, so thanks a lot for your hard work. And the other thing, before we move over to our resident comments, is we do want to thank you, Brad, for working with us, for listening to us. Some people have said you've been very lonely because I've been out for a few weeks, but I'm back, hounding you, and for giving us or putting in a new group of department heads who are willing to work with us to really improve this community. You know, this is the first line we've ever worked on, the first year we've ever worked on our waste line, so picture that, you know, so the staff is very willing to do things with us, so we appreciate it. So, okay, now we're up to number 11, and this is audience questions and statements. So please come up if you'd like to. Please give your name and manor number. Remember, we are having our regular board meeting, so if you want to save your issue till then, you can do that too. So, and we do not respond to your comments at this time. After all of the audience comments are made, we ask the different directors who are responsible for the area to report. So thank you. Oh, and also in order to address the board at this time, you must be a member, which means you have to be an owner to be a member. Okay, is that correct? Did I say that correctly, Bill? Yes. All right. Okay, so go ahead. I don't think it's
may not
on,
be
and we
turned
wouldn't
on.
want to miss you. Okay.
All right. Lynn Jarrett, 4010 1C, a garden president at Gardenville Association. That's the GVA. Third board, to each and every one of you, I want to address you. Today, we, the officers of GVA, and all the building captains of the GVA want to express our thanks for all the support you've given to us over the past year. Our 3-story buildings have been declining over the past 30 to 50 years under the old management and even the boards. Thanks to the new management, but primarily a big thanks to this third board, you have given us new breath. There's been so much accomplished in the community of the 3-story buildings, above and beyond what decisions you made that impacted the entire community, and it is so appreciated. Some of you deserve a special thanks. Bert Moldow and Bill Walsh. I want to thank you, we all want to thank you for the work you've done with the energy and the solar project and much more. What an accomplishment. You can be very proud of yourselves. Additionally, each of you attended almost probably every one of the GVA meetings. You were there not only to present projects, but to answer questions from the captains. You were always available to answer questions. Moreover, you always took the time to answer my questions between meetings. It's really, really appreciated. Bert, I'd like to thank you for all the support you've given us. You gave us projects to work on, and we gladly complied in helping you with those. You started out the year by saying you wanted to get work done on the dilapidated buildings, and that's what you strived for. I don't think a lot of people in the community know all the work you've done behind the scenes to help enhance the looks and maintenance of our buildings. Rosemary, you gave us strength and support like we've never had before. Even though you live in an LH21 3-story building, you learned all about the needs of the Garden Villa buildings. You and Bert worked with us along with the Recreation Subcommittee. You never forgot us in the budget, and you gave a little shove to maintenance to get projects done that may have been lagging behind. All of this was out of the eyes of a lot of people, but we in GVA were always aware of what was going on in the background, and we knew we had your support. Even though you had a rough year with being a caregiver as well. Staff, thanks so much for sending your people out there and coming out also to the GVA meetings to speak and give us support. And maintenance, they were always there to answer questions as well. I really appreciate that. We appreciate that, the Garden Villa. But third board, I want to give you a really big thanks. May next year's board be as supportive as this one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lynn. And being that it's the same board, we promise. We promise, Lynn, we won't go to sleep on the job. And the other thing you didn't mention is this year, we actually have somebody, next coming year, we're having somebody assigned to really be, for maintenance staff, to really oversee the 3-story buildings. Because it was like, we have all of these apartment buildings and there's no super, because some of us come from East Coast are used to that. So thank you very much, Lynn. The mic was off, then it goes on. So thank you again, and your name and manor number, please.
Yes, my name is Harrison Chen. I live at 2400 2G. We also own another unit at 2136B that has been used as a vacation rental unit. At the end of June this year, we received a notice imposing a fine of $1,000. And the reason for the fine was that we violate the 2 months rental regulation. I want to say that we always try our best to meet that regulation. The only thing that was not quite right is that in the website postings, there was some technical error about the rental for just 30 days. That was an error without our knowledge. When we discovered that, that was immediately corrected. Even so, we were still fined for $1,000 with no evidence of our violation. We always we have a record of applications all through the years, and we always have proper records. That the committee, the board probably also has that record. So please remove that penalty for us because it's not improperly imposed. Thank you.
Your name and manor number, please.
Morning. I think it's still morning. My name is Scott Richmond. I live at 3345A, Bahia Blanca East. I'd like to preface my remarks by thanking all of the board members for their willingness to serve on our behalf. Once upon a time in a past life, I was a board member and a president of an HOA, and I know that sometimes being in that position is kind of a lonely and thankless task. So our hats off and appreciation to you. I also want to compliment the board for some of the relatively recent initiatives that it's undertaken. The work that you've done in the area of solar energy, water conservation, contract and purchasing reform, I think is really going to help us with greater efficiency, better accountability, and hopefully substantial cost savings over the long term. And I'd like to express the appreciation of my wife and I that our homeowner assessments have remained stable for the last couple of years. As retired people on fixed incomes, we really appreciate that. Having said that, though, I do want to take a minute to share with the board a concern that's kind of been growing in my mind. My wife and I have been residents of Laguna Woods for about 4 years now, and over the past several months, we've noticed a significant decline in the level and quality of services that we've become accustomed to. I think these kind of fall into three areas. The timeliness of services being provided, the neatness and completeness of the work being performed, and the accuracy or completeness of the information being provided to at least us as residents on why the current state of things are the way they are. I was going to go into some examples. I don't think I will, but the concerns that I have fall into the areas of landscaping. There's been some delays and some misinformation and just some kind of general uncertainty as to what was going on and why on service requests that we'd put in. Had an issue with security a couple of months back on a security concern we had, and didn't really feel like we got the information or the answers that we were looking for. Probably the most extreme example is I had a disability issue that I put in writing to the general manager back in November of 2016. To date, the issue I raised has not been resolved. In fact, I'm not even sure it's even being addressed. I've written 2 letters. I've sent 3 follow-up emails, and my request seems to have gone into a black hole. So what I would request of the board, I hear lots of good things about our management company. It gets a lot of good press in the Laguna Woods media. Certainly board members are complimentary. But I'm not necessarily feeling all that good feeling. So I would just ask that the board undertake some greater scrutiny of our management entity and make sure that the oversight by the general manager and by department heads is trickling down to all levels of the organization so that operationally speaking, on a day-to-day basis, we're getting full benefit of all the services that we pay for.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so to answer, and I'm just going to do this one, and then I'll turn it over to probably communication about the black hole. But for the resident who is saying that he was, excuse me, are you coming up too?
Yes.
Oh,
That's okay.
I thought we were done.
No,
I'm sorry.
I just
Please,
guided
name
him back to his chair.
Name and manner number.
My name is Denise Richmond. I live at 3345 Bahia Blanca East, Unit A. I too appreciate all of your hard work on the third advisory board. My comments today are addressed to the board, specifically the members of the board who are representatives on GRF. My comments also serve as a heads up to club presidents in the audience, especially those clubs who have a fixed activity location, housing equipment, and other materials. On September 13 and 14, Mr. Brad Hudson met separately with the presidents of the Personal Computer, or PC, and MAC clubs, telling them of his plan to combine the 2 clubs into one space at the community center and use the space formerly occupied by the MAC club for a village management service call center. The space currently occupied by the PC club is called the Learning Center, containing 21 computers and table space for 15 laptops for classes, tax preparation training, and more. Mr. Hudson did not offer plans for another space for the PC Learning Center. When asked if this move was a mandate, he replied, "No, not yet." You should know that the president of the PC Club was invited to the meeting totally uninformed of its subject. Needless to say, this news sent shockwaves through the PC Club. Fast forward a few days. At the GRF board meeting on October 3rd, Mr. Hudson's opening remarks included a disclaimer about this issue, calling it, quote, scuttlebutt, that the PC Learning Center was being taken away and space usage being moved around on the third floor of the community center. Mr. Hudson seems to have abandoned his plan. I find Mr. Hudson's conduct inexcusable. He appears to have unilaterally announced his plan that would gut the heart of the PC Club's activities, one of the largest clubs in the village, then had the temerity to call it scuttlebutt. If his behavior is any example of the way he conducts business of the village, then I seriously question the perspective of some third and GRF board members.
Excuse me.
Who have professed so much adoration of him.
Excuse me. Okay, there are two things that are very significant here. Number one, this is really a GRF issue, although we try to work with GRF. But number two is we never use our forum as board members or that podium where people can insult other members, whether of staff or of the community. Because that is not acceptable. That would be like me insulting one of the board members or you insulting, and we really have to stop it. So I'm going to say that we've heard you because all of us on this board know how important PCs are to our community. We keep talking about training our people. So I'm going to have to just say thank you very much for coming up. And we appreciate your comments.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to I'm going to let Bert handle the gentleman who said our information goes into a black hole, because that's very scary. But for the one person who said that he received a fine and he doesn't feel that it's legitimate, any person who the timer's done on me. Anyone who receives a fine or anything is allowed to have an appeal. So this person should go through the appeal process, and that is handled through the board, and that's what should be done. And so, what? So that should be done with that person. But now, Bert, I'm going to ask you to address the black hole, and then this session will be over. Okay?
Well, your comment is really surprising to me. I can only tell you about how we handle complaints. Now, these complaints were apparently sent directly to the general manager, so I can't speak for him directly, but I can tell you that when we get any complaint, any board member, or we get complaints directed to the whole board, we give it to Catherine Laster, who is the executive secretary, and she either passes it on to Brad or to Lori, or will send it to the people directly, on staff people directly involved. And they will report back to her and to the resident. And this is the first case, frankly, that I've heard about where there's been no response from the general manager or his office or by staff. So my suggestion would be, and I'm sure Brad can give you a better answer, that they certainly will follow up on this and give you an answer. And if you're still not satisfied, send us an email. You can send it directly to me, and we will try to make sure that you get the answer that you deserve.
Okay, so, goodness gracious. So at this point, do I have any comments from the directors, even though that's not on the agenda? Otherwise, this meeting will be adjourned.
Well, give Brad a chance.
Oh, do I have to give Brad a chance to speak? All right, Brad, go right. Okay.
Well, thank you. Let's before we respond to this, I just wanted to tell this board how honored I've been to work with you over the last year and a half, and that I'm proud of the efforts that you've made. You have not kicked the can down the road. You've recognized the issues that are before this community, many of them long-standing, and you've decided to do something about it. And for that, I thank you, and I know our residents do as well. Things like dry rot and waste lines and things that aren't readily visible but have a horrible effect long-term on our community, you've attacked those. It's easy to do the things that everybody sees every day, but to go and deal with basic infrastructure issues that are not sexy, not popular, but nonetheless critically important to our community, I think you all should be commended for that. With respect to the resident here, and certainly she has a right to her opinion on matters, but you all know that I have a very open door policy with residents, and I meet with many, many residents every day. I email directly with many, many residents every day, have phone conversations with them, and something I've never experienced anywhere else, I actually get nice handwritten letters from folks. Boy, you don't get that anymore. I'm not sure. I know I don't even think they're teaching handwriting to my grandson anymore. It's going to be a lost art pretty soon, but I have a lot of communication, and may have something fallen through the cracks. Certainly, it happens, but I'm certainly willing to meet with any resident anytime to address any issue that they have, whether they're referred by the board or they just want to contact me directly. So I want to make that clear. Again, with respect to the PC Club, I've addressed this to the GRF board, but I'm going to address it once again today. There never was a plan to do anything. What had happened was we hired a consultant to review this building, and so they were up measuring all the rooms, and some of the computer folks saw some measurement going on, and they made an appointment to come see me. And they did that, and they asked, do you have any plans for our space? And I replied, absolutely not. We love the computer lab. I'm pushing technology more than anybody in this village. If anything, you need to train more people because the computer classroom is grossly underutilized. I had Chuck do a utilization study of that review, and it's hardly ever used. So I've pushed for more. Well, about a week later, staff comes forward. Well, here's what we've got. We're taking over the Mac room. My question, these people were just here 2 weeks ago, and I assured them we're not doing anything. And so if you have any plans like that to shift things around or do things differently, consolidate, become more efficient, you need to share that with the folks. So that's why I made the appointment with the two clubs to come down and say, hey, here, people are thinking about trying to get some efficiencies here and to put the security dispatch on that same third floor area. So there was never any discussion about eliminating a classroom, eliminating a service. There was talk about making things more efficient. But it's never been a plan of GRF or the VMS board or me. It was a consultant looking at space, saying, here's how you could better utilize this space and make things work. So I want to make that clear. If anything, we need to do more training. We have 10,000 residents that are connected to the internet here, which means we have 2,700 manners that aren't connected. And we need to reach out to those folks and provide equipment and training and opportunities for them to come with the rest of us into this new digital age. And in the long run, save a lot of money and lower assessments by not having to mail many hundreds of pages every year to residents that they probably have difficulty looking at anyway. So there is no conspiracy, there's no intent. I would be very, very cautious about ever converting any resident space to management space. That's just something that I would not lead with ever. And you all know that about me. So, and I would say the best example of that is my own office, which is about a quarter of the size of the one that the previous manager had here, and we made great community use of that larger space. Again, making things more efficient, something that should be done long-term with the PC lab and all the space that we use, make it better, make it more efficient, get more computers in there, more training, and make it better for all of our residents, but not today.
Okay, so we're going to hold you to your word, and if 1 inch is gone, we'll be after you. There. So, and I have my tape measure in my car.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
all right. So in any case, I want to thank this board from the bottom of my heart for your support, for your hard work, and for being such a credit to the community. And thank you, Sandra, for putting up with us, especially some more than others. And I'm not looking at them, but but in any case, this meeting is adjourned, and we immediately go into our organizational meeting from this meeting. So
when do you want us back in here? At 9 minutes.
Yes. I am now calling this meeting to order. We have a quorum. Number 2 is approval of the agenda. Well, I see a correction needed on the agenda unless I'm blind. Do we need 2 motions to close the nominations? Number 4 and 5?
No, just
Just one?
one.
So is that a correction needed?
That would probably be.
Did anyone see that? It says, number 4, entertain motion to close nominations, entertain motion to close nominations. So we have to correct that.
We just need to remove.
No, we opened, maybe it has to say, okay, maybe one should say entertain motion to open nominations.
That's number 3.
That's number 3.
Yeah, we just need
All right, we'll just remove number 5. Okay, so do we need to vote on that correction? No, it's just like an added. Okay, all right, in any case, so the agenda is now approved. So we are now going to have the election of officers by the opening of nominations. So I turn that over to Bert Baum, our illustrious secretary. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
There are positions of president, first vice president, second vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So we will first hear any nominations for president.
Here. Can I honor to nominate Rosemary DiLorenzo?
Okay, so it's
A second.
Rosemary. Okay, we have a second. Are there any other nominations?
I move the nomination cease.
Okay, nominations are closed, and by acclamation,
I didn't accept the nomination.
You're right.
Oh, do you accept?
That's right.
Wait a second.
What if I said no? No.
You haven't
Yes, I
voted in
did. Well, you have to accept it before. I accept
You're
the
right.
nomination.
Well, thank you. So by acclamation, you are president of a third board. You continue to be president.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, now we will entertain nominations for first vice president. John?
I nominate Bill Walsh.
I'll second that.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
I move nomination cease.
Do I hear an
Wait.
accept?
Oh, yeah, okay.
I accept the nomination.
Thank you.
By acclamation.
Well, by acclamation, since there are no other candidates, I want to congratulate Bill Walsh as our first vice president. I will now entertain nominations for second vice president.
I nominate James Tong.
James Tung. Mr. Tung?
Wait, we have to second it.
I second.
Okay, we have a second, Mr. Tung.
I accept.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? The nominations are closed, and we congratulate James Tung as second vice president. Thank you.
I guess we don't need any paper today. Okay, secretary. Oh, you do it.
Okay, I will now entertain nominations for secretary.
I nominate Bert Baum.
I second.
I accept. Thank you.
So then we're supposed to say,
Are
are
there-
there any other nominations?
Are there any other nominations?
No.
I didn't see any.
So then
I
we,
accept, thank you.
so then we would say that Bert is, I don't want to, is secretary by consensus.
By acclamation.
Acclamation. Oh, okay.
By acclamation.
All right. Now, thank you. And now I will entertain a motion to nominate candidates for treasurer.
I nominate Steve Parsons.
I second it.
Are there any other nominations? Wait, okay, any other nominations?
I move that we close nominations at this point.
Okay. Do you accept?
Okay,
So I am pleased to say that our treasurer again for this year will be Steve Parsons. This closes,
no, you have to
At the
do this
motion.
vice president ex officio.
What is that?
the one?
The vice president ex officio.
I don't have that on.
Well, here.
It's just Brad.
Okay,
Okay.
we have to resolve further that a staff person is appointed as ex officio officer of this corporation. Is that okay, Sandra?
Yes.
Oh,
I nominate Brad Hutzman.
I second.
do we have any other nominations?
I'm not sure I get to deny either, you know?
And we're not,
I won't
and we
accept
don't
that.
have to ask if you accept it. So therefore, Brad is a vice president ex officio. That means, does he do the work if, you know, I was thinking, he didn't step in when I was out. You let Bill do everything.
Bill did a good
Okay.
job, too.
In any case, Brad is vice president ex officio by acclamation, so. But before we finish, I do want to thank Bill Walsh very much for filling in, doing everything for all the time that I was out. And he also did it for James because James is very involved in family things. So thank you very much, Bill. So,
Well, Rosemary, you're welcome, and I want to say that I really had the support of the rest of the directors on the board. It was really,
good.
it was really
Thank you.
important.
Brad
Thank
is
you.
running
Thank you
away.
all.
okay, so he ran away. He ran away.
I have to read the resolution.
So what resolution?
Appointment of officers.
All right, so go ahead.
Resolved on October 5th, 2017, pursuant to 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual Bylaws, Article 9, which sets guidelines, terms, and responsibilities for the election of officers to this corporation, the following persons are hereby elected to the offices indicated next to their names to serve: Rosemarie Di Lorenzo Dickens is president. First vice president is Bill Walsh. Second vice president is James Tung. Secretary is Bert Baum. And the treasurer is Steve Parsons. Resolve further that the following staff person is hereby appointed as an ex officio officer of this corporation: Bradley Hudson, vice president ex officio. Resolve further that Resolution 0316101, adopted October 6, 2016, is hereby superseded and canceled, and resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are directed on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move.
Second.
Do we have a second?
So,
Okay.
so do we have to vote?
Yeah,
Okay, so can we vote, we have to vote on this?
it's a resolution.
The resolution, so all those in favor? Okay, it is unanimous and passed. So,
I want to thank everyone for helping me count the ballots.
and to make things easier, I think I'm going to go back to just using Rosemary DiLorenzo, so we don't have this long name anymore, because I only did that for Steve. So, thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.